Oh, hello! Fancy seeing you here. I bet you've come all this way just to see the final episode of the solar-powered weather station project, have you? Yep, thought so. Well, it is true. It is finished, and it's all in here. But before you get to see what's in here, I've got another couple of bonus videos for you. The first is on how I weatherproofed the solar panels, and the second is on how I attached them to the wall. So what I suggest you do is go, watch those, come back, and I'll show you what's in the box. So let us step inside where it's a wee bit cooler and cast our minds back to the solar panels we bought all of those months ago. Now, we've not really seen anything of them since the original tests we did back in episode 2, I believe. So it's time to show them a bit of love before we put them back outside on a wall for the rest of eternity. Well, at least for a few years, hopefully. Okay, so you can see now that the wires we quickly tacked onto the back of the panels to run the original tests are still there. So what we're going to do is to remove these from the contacts, get a higher grade of wire and replace all of the cabling. And finally, once that's done, we'll waterproof the back of the panels. Once the new wires are in place, I'm going to give them some sort of weather protection by covering them up. And I'm going to do that by using these little project boxes. Now, I obviously don't need to use them as project boxes. I only need the lids. So the rubber gasket and the screws that come inside the boxes can be put to one side for now. I'll use them later. And the idea is that I drill some holes into the lids to pass the cables through and then stick them down, seal them up, and voila, or voici. I've never quite worked out the difference. So, let me show you how I'm going to place each of the lids on the solar panel backs. And now it's time to start getting the old wires off and some new ones on. So this is a desoldering alert, but don't worry, I won't put you through the pain of all of that. I'll speed it up. Now we've completed soldering the new wires onto the back of the panels, and I say panels because yes, I have done it on both the panels because I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. So it's time to seal the backs of the panels with silicone and stick on their little caps that, remember, are made out of the lids of the little project boxes. And then once we can do that, we can get them outside. But before I do that, there is something that I have to tell you about the silicone sealant I am going to use. Not every type of silicone is the same. You see, the silicone you would use for general sealing around the house, for instance in the bathroom, will use acetic acid to cure it. You'll be able to tell that by that vinegary smell that it gives off. And that type of silicone is very bad for electronics. It will literally eat the contacts away over time. So the stuff that you need to look for must have the words neutral silicone written on it or neutral curing formula. And that has to be written on the tube explicitly. If it hasn't got that, it's the standard version with the acetic acid in. Now the one I'm using happens to be made by Unibond, but the brand is irrelevant. The words, however, are not. Make sure you get neutral variety on your tube of silicone. Now we're first going to dab some of the silicone sealant on the contacts that are soldered on the back of the panels. Now this sealant doesn't have the same adhesive quality as the ordinary silicone, so you'll have to persevere in order to get it to stick. Feel free to manipulate it with your finger until it covers all of the connections fully. Now we have to drill a hole in the project box lid so the cables can come through. Now we're simply going to cover the box lid in masking tape, measure it, mark it out like we did with the project box in part 3, and then we can drill. Once all of that is in, we just need to feed the cables through. And stick it to the back of the solar panel. Now I'm using Gorilla Glue for this, but as long as what you use is water resistant, it shouldn't make any difference. Then we wait for it to set. And after a couple of hours, we can pump in the remaining silicone into the little holes and around the edge of the little cap. And finally, after we do the same on both of the solar panels, we have to solder them both together, put on some heat shrink, and the panels are now connected together and weatherproofed, and it's time to go back outside. Okay, so here we are at the final stages of the whole project, and the last thing that I need to do is to mount the solar panels. Now, as you can see, it's a lovely day, hence the hat. But obviously it's not going to be like that all year round, especially in the north of England. So I've got to make sure that I put them in the right place to get the best amount of light, not necessarily the sunniest part. So I'm looking for light, constant light across the day, rather than just in the heat of the day, where you'll get the most heat, but not necessarily the most light. So I decided, after much consideration and some tests, that the best place would be over there. But I'm going to put them over here because that's what my wife told me to do. Okay, so we're going to mount the solar panels on this wall, and we're going to use masonry hooks. So I'll have to drill into the wall and to mount the hooks in there. The solar panels themselves have got holes in the plastic. You'll probably have seen this from earlier videos, with little carabiners that clip into the holes, and then hopefully they're going to attach the panels to the hooks. And that there, with those carabiners and those hooks, that should be enough to keep the solar panels reasonably rigid on the wall for all of the wind and the rain that we'll get in this part of the area. This area itself, this little backyard here, is quite secluded, quite sheltered, so we shouldn't have a problem with that going on throughout into the winter. So it's quite a hot day here today. I'm sweating already. So I hope you have fun watching me do some incompetent drilling and various DIY tasks that I'm just simply not capable of doing. So enjoy yourself for the rest of this video. So we are really coming to the last bit now. The mounting of the solar panels is the final stage in the project, and the point where I really find out if this whole device will run unattended and free from mains power, or whether it's all been a complete waste of time. Now, when it comes to fixing the panels to the wall, I'm largely at the mercy of a couple of things. One, it appears that early 20th century house builders had immense disregard for straight lines and measurements in general. So I'm going to work out the positioning by eye rather than following any predetermined points in the building. Two, I don't have a powerful enough drill to go directly into the brick, so I'll have to look for points in the masonry that I can attach the hooks to, whilst keeping a relatively straight line. You can see here the masonry hooks which I'm drilling holes for, and where I'm marking them out already for drilling. Now at this stage I also bought a load of wall plugs in case I needed to use them once the holes were drilled, but as it happened the hooks screwed straight in and were really solid, so no need for them. Then there's just a period of extreme drilling, speeded up slightly. And now all the hooks are in, it's time to use the carabiners that came with the panels to mount them. Actually, at this point, I'll hand back over to myself to fill you in on how I'm going to couple the panels to the actual project box via the cable. Take it away, John. Yeah, so that's it. That's the solar panels up, and that's pretty much how I expected them to be. There's some give in them. These, I've purposely put an extension on, a big long cable, so that I could move them around, because I don't really know if this is the optimum place to put them. I've just done some basic analysis of where the sun goes in a particular day. But it does seem to get quite a bit of the sunlight into late morning, early afternoon, and right the way through until the end of the day. So hopefully this is the right place to put them. So I've got a connector on the end of the cable, so I don't have to solder anything outside, and it's also waterproof, and I'll show you with my phone. It's very similar to the gland that we have on the actual box itself. It has these rubber washers, which when tightened up will make a good waterproof seal, and then in here there is another yellow waterproof washer, which when tightened actually closes around and deforms around the cables, so making them waterproof. But I have got something else which I'll show you later on when we get around to sealing them up. You see, that's the internal washer, the yellow one in there. That's a little bit better, but you'll see this better later on when I start cabling up the other side of the connector. And I have a little tip for when putting sort of external stuff outside to give it an extra seal around where the ingress point is. Okay, so this is looking good now, and I'm just ready to do this and cable up the box, but that is for another time. Well, John, I'm going to have to hold it there, because there isn't another time, is there? The actual time is now. You see, I'm fairly sure I'd filmed some extra footage for what was going to be episode 5, but I cannot find it anywhere. Normally, I would take all of the footage from all of the cameras and recorders I use, put them straight on my laptop, and then run a script which pushes them straight up into the cloud. But I can't find this on the laptop or in the cloud or any of the cameras that are used to record it or would have used to record it. So I can only assume that I didn't film any of it and my brain is just screwed. Anyway, all that I was going to show you was that that cable coming from the solar panels and terminating in this connector that I am holding in my hand has another cable connecting to the weather station box, and that's how I link the panels and the weather station together. Okay, so yeah, it's not rocket science, is it? No. So just let me show you one last thing to prove that there is no smoke and mirrors going on. You'll probably want to see what I'm getting out of the solar panels without any voltage regulation at this stage, and here it is. Okay, so this is the last bit for this afternoon. This is just to check to make sure that the solar panel, which is over there, is producing enough current and voltage down the cable and across the yard and through this and to here. And as you can see, it is. The reason why this is all shaky is because the cameras that were using this afternoon, I've taken so long that they've all run out of battery. So this is on my mobile phone. Anyway, so that is, there you are, the voltage. I can't show you the current because the granularity, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, is 200 milliamps, and then the next one is up as 10 amps. Now it flips between the two, so I can't get the current to show you, but there is current there, and there's enough to charge the power bank, which is all I need. The voltage is obviously 5.7, 5.78. That's going to be rectified anyway to 5 volts, so that's not a problem, but there's enough there to quite happily power the charging of the power bank, which is what I'll show you when I unveil the box. Okay, so here we are with the money shot. Well, it would be a money shot if anyone was paying for this thing. The actual weather station itself in all its glory. So let's go through all of the elements in the box so you can see what we ended up with. Now I've got video footage of this, but it seems to me that a still photograph taken directly overhead would be more useful for me to explain things, so that's what I'm going to do. I've already recorded all of this once and it just sounded like and looked like death by PowerPoint, so I re-recorded it and now I don't have a script, so let's get on with it. So if we take it from the right hand side going left across the screen, midway down the right hand side is the gland with the 2 cables coming through. Those cables are the power from the solar panels and the sensor, temperature sensor. So we start with the solar panel, the larger red and black cable, which go through and hit the voltage regulator, which I'll come back to. The other cable has the red, black and yellow, which is from the temperature sensor, and that goes into the circuit board with the resistor down on there, and those then go from the circuit board across to the GPIO socket on the Raspberry Pi. Now if we move up the screen now, we've got right at the top, we've got the voltage regulator plugged into a USB amp volt display, a meter as it were. So the voltage regulator keeps it at the 5 volts. The amp voltage meter is just in series constantly, so I know what the power bank is drawing in terms of charging. So when that current which is in red, when that goes to 0, I know that the power bank is fully charged. And the grey USB cable out there is the actual feed into the power bank for charging. So if we go right to the bottom, the big black thing is the power bank. You'll see the grey USB cable coming into the top. That's charging. Now the reason why I need to know the reason why I've got that current meter in series is because even when it's fully charged, the 4 blue lights on the top of the power bank, the last one is always flashing, even though it's completely fully charged. So I need to know when it's fully charged by looking at the current meter. The black cable that's underneath the grey cable is the USB power supply from the power bank into the Raspberry Pi. Now the silica gel sachets are simply there to soak up any condensation that could appear in the box. When I tried putting the box out in early spring overnight, we got a little bit of condensation in the top of the clear case. So that's hopefully to counteract that. And to be honest, since I put them in, I've not had any problems. But then again, it's been very warm. So the only thing I haven't discussed is the code. And I'm not really planning to show you that here, but I have included a link into the GitHub repository where it's all located. And that's in the description. This is likely to be something which will alter over the months. It's very bare bones at the moment, but if you want me to do a video on the code, please mention it in the comments and I'll see what I can do. The one thing that I will show you here, and it's what I promised at the start of the project, is the integration into the Amazon's AWS IoT service, and that's what I'll show you now. So at the moment, what you're seeing on the screen is the Python code which is sending the temperature reading once every minute to AWS. I'll probably make that once every 5 minutes. It doesn't change that often. So I can track this data using the various graphs and logs within AWS, within the IoT service. But at the moment, I can't really do anything useful with the temperature data. So in other words, it knows that the data is coming in, but it doesn't know what it is in terms of an integer or a temperature. It doesn't know that. And because of that, I can't quite get to the stage of showing you the temperature graphs, which is what I was going and hoping to do by this stage. But it is going there. So I have, by the letter of the law, proved that I can get things into AWS. But this is something that I need to spend a bit more time on. And again, I'll update the GitHub repository with any CloudFormation templates that I need to do to get this reproducible. And well, there you see it in front of you. That is the finished weather station. And now I better hand back to myself to do a bit of summing up. Well, that's it. The very last episode of a year-long journey to build and design a solar-powered, Raspberry Pi-powered weather station. And I hope you enjoyed it and all the episodes along the way. And hopefully you've learned something too, because I know I have. And I'd like to thank everybody who has commented and given me feedback. It's all been positive stuff and it's all given me the drive to continue, which is great. What I would like to say is that I don't anticipate any more videos coming in a scheduled format on this particular project, but of course things will go on over the year and I might update things, I might upgrade things. I'm certainly going to add another sensor like a barometer or something like that along with the temperature sensor. So I will keep you up to date on some smaller scale just to let you know how things are going. But what I need now is some help from you. I need to know what I should do next for a project. Now I've got a few ideas and I'd like to pursue them. Some of them are tech related, some of them are not. Some of them are long projects, some of them are short. But I'd like some guidance from you, and if you could submit that guidance in the comments section, that would be brilliant. It would give me an idea of what you want and how I would proceed. I'd like to say and like to end how all YouTube videos end, and that's to say, hit the subscribe button and the dingy bell, and I will give you a new episode in the next few weeks. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching.